All right. Hi, Michelle.
Hi,
Thank you for
David.
being a team manager.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I assume you're new at this. You'll forgive me. We probably conversed via email and
Yeah, brand new, brand new. I'm with
um,
the Corinthians, the 16 U16 boys.
great. Should be exciting. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Welcome. Really what we're going to try and do today, someone else joined in.
Hi, this is Scott Searcy.
Hi, Scott. Forgive me, but which team are you manager for?
MSC Athletico.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, we're just getting started. And anyone, in fact, what I think I'll do is I'm going to mute, well, at least I'm only hearing a little bit of feedback. Actually, as long as it's not too bad, we'll just go through. And I guess there's a way on here that you can raise your hand if you have questions by hovering your cursor over your name. So if you have something and just want to interject, let us know. All right, so to get started, really the goal of this is to help explain a little bit better to you what kind of tools are available to help you be the manager of your team, clarify what your responsibilities are, and hopefully help you help your team. Come on, click for me. So, what we put together is this organization chart to explain how we expect things to work on a team. The coach handles soccer, the manager handles logistics. You'll be communicating with the parents, and at the end of the day, we all serve the kids. What we try to do is keep it so that the manager is working on really the logistics things, communicating what the schedule is, what upcoming games are, and hopefully making everything run smoothly. Getting started, by now you've probably already had the experience getting used to Sports Illustrated Play, or SIP as we often refer to it. That's the place where you'll be able to get your team's roster. And once again, if you have, or not once again, just to reiterate, if we haven't done this via email, Sam Arnoff, our Director of Operations, can also get you that list of email addresses to help make it a little bit easier for you if that's something you need. Actually, have both of you been able to figure that part of it out so far?
Yeah, I was a manager last year, so I'm familiar with it.
Okay, great. All right. And actually, I wrote on here kick play to get player cards, but we have some good news because that's changed since I wrote this. I apologize for not having it up to date. But now the club is going to have the cards made for you and distribute them to you. In fact, actually, Scott, do you have a game this weekend because you're a younger team?
Yes, we do. I've been talking with Eddie Sutton to try and see if I can. He said he should have something for me tomorrow because we have a game.
Right. Great. No, that's exactly how it should be running. So that's great. And Michelle, just so you know, because now you're a high school team, to get used to with, Corinthians. High school teams aren't going to be playing games till I think it's Columbus Day weekend. It's really when we start playing. So
Our game is that Columbus Day weekend tournament.
Exactly. So, the rush for high school teams to get cards is real. Is not a priority at this point.
Okay.
And it's not that it's not important to get taken care of, but given that we have 60 some odd teams, it's better we place our efforts on getting the other teams set up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You should system. You should much prefer those
Hey, David?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you were speaking and I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, just straightforward. What's happening is for getting into kick play, it's best if you touch base with Eddie Sutton first. Again, apparently we've had some issues with multiple managers trying to get logins as MSC. So just touch base with him and say that you need to get access, and he'll be able to set you up. The other thing that you'll be going into probably more often is Got Soccer. And that's where you'll be able to make roster adjustments. And also, I know this from experience on EDP, is where you're able to do your game scheduling all through Got Soccer. In fact, I take it, Scott, you've already gotten used to the scheduling aspect so far. Is that correct?
So last year we were with the boys played in the Westchester League. So I only used Got Soccer in the winter. We did a couple of
Gotcha.
T-neck. So I do have an account, but I haven't used it for the NYCFC stuff yet.
Okay. So Atletico's NYC, forgive me for just double checking, but that's Atletico's NYCFC?
Correct.
Yeah, just.
And we did have to use that too to sign up for this tournament this weekend.
Okay. Or
Michelle, you had a question? Or your hand is up?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have a Got Soccer sign on. Did you hear my question?
yeah.
So the answer is that you should send an email to Ray Salvadori.
Okay.
In fact, send it to both Eddie Sutton and Ray. Let them know that you need to get access to Got Soccer, and that'll get you set up and US Club.
Okay. US Club and Got Soccer.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, yeah. I mean, the good news for you is that your use of Got Soccer will be for the first Columbus Day tournament. So once again, you're not under, a time crunch, and your game scheduling for EDP will be in the spring. So you'll have some time before that gets started. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
So EDP doesn't start in November?
No.
Okay.
No, even because Corinthians are U16, which is what we were last year.
Uh-huh.
That's what the December games, but that's for EDP. Sorry for us start talking out loud, but okay. Okay. All right. Well, I may have misspoken not starting till spring. It may be that you have a first game in December.
Okay. So I should email Ray and Eddie, Edie or Eddie?
Yeah. Eddie Sutton?
Eddie Sutton, okay.
Noel.
All right. So I think that hopefully explains what the different, online tools you'd be using are available. Now, what we also have available are some important links that I think I've put in both of my emails recently that have gone out to everyone, just reminders, but just to keep in mind that the important links page, hopefully this will run smoothly and open up, that a lot of information that you just need to get a form or something is on our important links page on the website. And just to be geeky and click on the next one, we also have a page for managers resources, which has everyone's email address you'll need. So whereas we just talked about getting in touch with Eddie Sutton and Ray Salvadori. Their email addresses are on the website here. Where's Eddie? Right down over here. But a lot of good, helpful things. It may be a bit rote how I have it on the page. And when I say I, it's because I'm also the person who works on the website. But hopefully you can find most of the things that you need on these 2 pages.
So David, are you with MSC? Are you just a really active parent? Are you on the board? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I'm another parent. I'm a volunteer just like you.
Ah.
And in fact, because of the person sitting next to me here, who's the manager of my son's team, I'm no longer a manager. That I've been relieved of that, and I am now get to do what I really want to do, which is be team photographer.
Oh, okay.
So and do things like this because it's fun, and try and be helpful.
Thank you.
Sure.
And thank you to the person next to you.
No problem. That's fine.
Okay, so communication to your team. Now, we point out there's, I think 3 basic ways that folks can use, and I'll, be very biased on these if you don't mind. Team Wall, which is what you're able to access through Sports Illustrated Play, allows you to send email communication to your team. It's definitely useful. It has everyone's email address that they listed when they registered for MSC. And I say that with a caveat because it's just what they listed on their registration. It is not necessarily the email addresses that you want to communicate to your team. Now, Michelle, for you, now that you have a high school age, at least at that level, it's really getting to be that level where the boys should also be getting the communication on things because they need to start being responsible for when they need to be at practice. Not so much for you, Scott, on that one. I think you're still quite clearly in the realm where parents should be helping out here. But Team Wall will allow you to do that. What I used when I was a manager was a thing called Google Groups, which was really just another tool that was used for me to create an email distribution list so that I could just use one email address and add email addresses to that as you go through. And that's a free thing through Google. But I'll now get to my bias, which is what our team has been using, thanks to Anna, which is a tool called Team Snap. And it's a web-based product that allows you to put everyone's email address on it and communicate either via, sort of an instant message through the app or through email to communicate schedule. Yep.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
So I have 2 kids. I hear
What's that?
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I have 2 kids. I have one on the charge, U15 charge, and then U16 Corinthians. U15
Okay.
charge, they use Team Snap, and it's really useful and helpful. But like trying to get everybody registered and signed on to Team Snap, I think was a challenge for them. For Team Wall, which is the SI Play one, since everybody's automatically on that through registration, I found that really easy just to get up and go, but I have a hard time adding people to my email list.
Right. No, with Team Wall, there's 2 things that are, at least I think, challenges with Team Wall. One is you cannot add any email addresses to it. And then the second thing, which to me is more, at least annoying, is that you can't draft an email and leave it waiting, ready to send. By example, at least for me, I usually write my emails over a couple of days that I send out.
Oh, okay.
You have to, by example, the emails that you got from us recently to all team managers, I wish I was good enough to be able to write that in one sitting, but that was written, over a couple of days and asking some other folks for input on it. So once again, And one other, what I think is a very good thing about TeamSnap with the accountability is that for each session, whether it's a training session or a game, it has an ability to people to say whether they're going to attend or not. And I think that's really helpful, as you get ready for a game coming up, to know who's coming each week. So anyhow, but once again, it's something at least I've seen that has been working well, thanks to Anne setting up for our team. And I'm hearing others having success with it. But obviously, you've heard a little bit of a challenge on charge. Okay? All right.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay. And, we put this as email protocol, but let's say is, for communication protocol, obviously what we were just talking about is you want to make sure that any communication to the team goes to everyone, including the coach. Try to keep it simple, and also try to keep the number of times you're communicating to folks, to as little as possible. You don't want to be sending updates all the time so that they're not catching everything. The way I did things when I was sending them via email was sending a weekly summary that just had a general overall what was going on. And then as you got to the weekend, sending an update of what the weekend plans were, what either Saturday training was or what the games were. And basically, when you send an update about the game, you really just have to tell folks what the address is, because I think we're all at the point where we're using our phones or some sort of GPS. And in fact, this is where we say a good thing about TeamSnap.
So,
Do you want me to go into team?
Hey, David,
Yeah.
about something you just mentioned, how all the messages have to go to the coach.
Mhm.
So our coach, I've asked him like 6-7 times to sign on to SI Play because he's not signed on on our page where we don't have a coach.
Right.
Not signed on. How do I get him to sign on? Just it takes less than 2 minutes to just register yourself as a coach. I don't understand.
If you've had I would say, take your email string of you sending 3 times, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and send it to him and Ray and say, who's your coach?
Bradley Johnson.
Okay. And say,
I know
Brad.
He's doing preseason for LIU right now, and I know that they had 2 away games in Michigan. So I know he's busy. I just it takes less than a minute to sign on. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I would say what my advice is to let Ray know that you're not getting the response that you need from your coach, and he needs to take care of it.
Okay. Is Ray back from Spain?
Yeah, no, he's been regularly answering emails on things, so.
Okay.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I don't think, I'd say in some ways, there's some train of thought that says copy Ray on all things as well. I know he wants to be in the loop on things, but at least for me, I think it's important to make sure that you've got the coach in the loop there. And I'm sorry that you're having trouble getting Brad to take care of that.
Okay.
All right, next.
Raise your hand.
Medical forms. Hopefully you've had some success so far collecting both the MSC and the US Club forms that we wrote about a couple of weeks ago. Just to reiterate, with medical forms, you're going to bring a hard copy to each game. You're going to give a set of hard copies to your coach because they need to have the medical forms with them at every practice. And then also, in fact, I don't have it on here. We need you to respond to that survey to certify, certify that you've received all the medical forms for the players on your team. Once again, sorry, Scott, I'm going to give you a mute for a little bit.
Sorry.
No worries. We need you to certify that you've received all the medical forms because a player cannot participate in a practice or a game until those medical forms are submitted. So hopefully that's pretty clear. Yeah.
I sent an email about 2 weeks ago asking for medical forms, and I just sent another one today. So far, for the 21 players that I've got on my roster, I've only got 4. 4 responses.
Yeah.
I've told them that the players cannot participate in any practice, any game, and I've gotten some emails saying that their player is not going to be participating in most of the practices because they're in high school. They're doing high school soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. No, absolutely. Scott, please tell me you're not having the same issue.
I'm really only hearing you and Michelle, and that's it. So there's long moments of silence. I'm using a laptop that I'm not dialed in. I connected.
That's okay. I'm using a laptop too, which could be why you're maybe not hearing as well. Basically what we're saying is, asking you specifically is, how are you doing collecting medical forms?
I have all mine, and I filled out the survey already.
Well, then you get the rock star button. That's great. All right. Well, Michelle, definitely reach out to Ray and let him know what the challenges you're having.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and he'll be there to support you.
I just sent out an email today, and I'll give it a couple of days to see if people respond, and I'll reach out to Ray.
Okay. Yeah, and if you want to copy, any one of us or all of us on that to let him know, that would be fine too.
Okay.
All righty.
Thanks.
Sure. Okay, uniforms. I certainly hope this is the easy thing. I think everyone should have gotten their orders in. Your team really should be taken care of as far as individuals. As far as spares go, I don't know if Michelle, the previous manager gave you the spares for the team, or if you already had a spare set of jerseys?
I don't. So
Um,
at the end of the season, there was a sort of blanket email asking for volunteers to be manager. I replied saying that I'm willing to help out, right? Like be part of a team. And then I didn't hear from anybody for months. And then about 3 weeks ago, I got an email saying you should be contacting your team. I got that email, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm manager. And so I don't know. See, my son came up from the Rowdies, so he wasn't on the Corinthians last year.
Gotcha.
So I don't know any of these parents. I don't know who the managers were. So I'm kind of like I'm starting from ground zero here.
That's totally. And so let's just stick to the uniforms, and then we'll get to some other stuff that's related to that. So for the uniforms, and that's why I just bring it up here, because after I sent the email out on Monday, I did get a question from another manager, and the straight answer is that you can order a pair of jerseys from Upper 90, and just let them know it's for Corinthians, it's for a U16 team. Anna, do they have a specificity of the number to put on the back? Yeah. Okay. Touch base with Eddie Sutton again, just to confirm what number to put on the spare set. And it's basically you're getting a jersey with a number that nobody else has. And yeah, that's what I was going to guess. It was 99. We typically don't give that one out. And make that part of the kit that gets brought to every game, so that you have a black jersey and a white jersey. I'd advise getting them for your team size medium, so that because the boys are getting bigger, we watched our kids last year's U16s grow substantially over the course of the season.
Okay.
Wait until.
Yeah. Once again, you're not in a rush now because you only need them for the Columbus Day tournament.
Right.
But I will say, even on our U16 team, in previous years, kind of got thinking that you really didn't need to have spares, and we needed them desperately a number of times. So
Okay. I remember last year with the Rowdies, our manager had spares all the time, and she had an older son who had played. She had his old spares. She has her current son's old uniforms, and she always had 4 or 5 spares, and we actually used them. So I didn't know where they came from.
Well, I'm not going to expect you to get 4 sets of spare jerseys, for sure. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So would I would pay for it?
You would pay for it and then get reimbursed for it.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that's definitely a reimbursable expense. Yeah. I'm 100% certain that they can get reimbursed for that. Okay. Player cards. This has gotten so much easier this year. This used to be a long topic of discussion, so I probably could have taken the slide out of the presentation. But now that Eddie Sutton has taken on putting all the cards together and getting them laminated and distributing them to each team, it's just a matter of touching base with Eddie before your first game to make sure you get the cards. But so far, he's been putting on a heroic effort getting cards out to teams on time. So, Scott, rest assured you're going to get yours before your game. And Michelle, you're definitely going to get yours before October.
Okay, great.
All right. Game scheduling. This, I'd like to say this is easy, but it gets to be a bit challenging. And this is probably one of the more challenging things you'll have to do as a team manager. You'll be using GOT Soccer as your tool for scheduling games, and EDP will put together, although things are going to be a little bit different this year, so honestly I'm going to have to do a little bit of wait and see, but they typically put together the schedule of what your team is supposed to play. But it just seems almost common that every team has a conflict with what's put on the schedule. And there's some negotiating with the other team when to schedule the game. And what that usually takes place is all through GOT Soccer. GOT Soccer, through EDP, or I should say EDP, wants you to use their tools so that they can see the communication going on. I don't know if you can hear the siren more than me, so I'll wait for a second. For the record, we're all okay. So anyhow, it's a bit of a process in that you'll get the schedule, and then what you'll be or what you need to do is once you work out the dates of the games and of your home games, you then need to go onto the MSC website and submit a game request. And there's a game request form on our website. In fact, let me see if I can be clever and go to that right now. Where's the game? Forgive me, I'm looking silly here. The game request form is on the field request right there. I apologize, not field request, game request. That you'll go on this form, fill out the name of your team, the name of your coach, your name, email address, basics of what the game is, and just put in the date that it's a home game so that this way they know to schedule the game for you. Or rather, so that another person in MSC can handle getting you a field and arranging for referees to show up.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
So last year with the Rowdies, all of the games were scheduled by WYSL.
Correct. And this is different for you this year.
So I don't like. How does this? I don't even know. I don't know how to formulate a question. Like,
it's okay.
Okay. So the screen that you have up right now
Mm-hmm.
on the right, that's what comes out from EDP. And what you're saying is that a lot of times people have conflicts with
Correct.
it. And so what happens is if you come up with a conflict, you have to submit a game.
So okay, I'll walk through. So we'll by example, say the first game of the season here, where I'm pointing to a game with the Magpies.
Okay.
Now you're the away team, but you'll communicate this. So what should happen is the Magpies will reach out to you and say, we're supposed to play a game on whatever date is 4/2, and we're supposed to play in the morning, and you check with your coach to make sure your coach is available and that everything's fine. And if it is, you'll agree to that game. But if they reach out to you and say, oh, we're sorry, we're participating in a local tournament that day, can we move the game to another date?
Okay.
And then you'll look down your schedule and you'll see that you're not, on this one here, it'll look like you're booked every weekend, but there'll be weekends when you're clear where you won't have a game.
Mm-hmm.
You'll try to find another time to schedule a game. Because really you want to keep it to one game. So now take into account where it gets a little more complicated is, I'm fairly certain that Corinthians are also participating in the state cup.
Yeah.
So by example, you may have a state cup game at the same time as EDP puts in for you to have a game. So should that be the case, cup games should be taking precedence over EDP games. So you want to try and get that balanced out. And I'm going to let
David, so what I remember from the charge, the cup games are not scheduled until much later in the season. Like you'll find out maybe a week or two. You'll only have like a week or two of notice for the cup games.
Once we
Hey, David, just to let you know, we can't hear any of your conversation with your better half.
Oh,
See,
you
is that
can.
better?
Is that better?
Oh, yeah. We can hear you
okay.
now.
So I was going to say is what I would do, Michelle, is I would just, I would hang on for 2 seconds. I'm going to put you in touch with a scheduling guru named
Okay.
John Graber, who does all the scheduling for the team that David and I are both on, called Emelec, and has been doing it forever and ever.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, okay.
And he can give you some good strategies. But, you know, I think the first thing I would do if I were you is just look at the play-in dates, the play dates for New York Cup, because you actually can know those fairly far in advance. Things can change, but they give you certain dates that you have to play by, certain weekends to play on. So I would just, you know, kind of map out the season that way. And know that. I'm sorry?
I mean, this is spring we're talking about, right? So,
yeah, this is spring, but they do put the dates out there now. Like, you can go onto the New York Club Soccer website, onto New York Cup, and there's something that says like important dates, and it will tell you the dates that games are played, etc., and like when the finals are and things like that. So they have those dates already.
Okay.
It's the specific opponents and things like that that haven't been figured out yet. I
Okay.
mean, it's like, if you look at all of this at once, it can seem daunting, but I promise that if you break it down into little chunks, it's not so much so. And luckily you have time. We have time to figure this out. And I also actually know another parent that's going to be on your team this year, who is like an organizational guru. She's on it. She's brand new to the club. I will tell her that she has to help you.
Okay.
And between that and getting you hooked up with John Graber, you'll be fine.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Who's John Graber?
He's actually I'm a polygamist. I have 2 helpers on my team, sort of. So David is one helper, and then John Graber is another super. He and I have co-managed this team in one, like, it used to be called. We used to be the Titans. Before the age split, so he and I co-managed the Titans for 5 years. And he's literally a guru. So.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, I'll move on to the next then. And this, Michelle, I think is probably the part that I'd like to be able to help you most with here, which is tasks that can be delegated. Because I know it seems like a whole bunch has been thrown at you to get started off doing this. But just, you know, to go through, and I'll say in many ways when I was managing, these were the things that I tried to get other people to help out on the team. And I'd say there's 2 ways about getting help on this. And one is to break down what these different things are, as we're outlining, which we'll just go through quickly. And the other is to have a face-to-face meeting with everyone. Now, I've seen Ray setting up team meetings, or rather, you know, like sort of a meet and greet with him and the coach at the first practice session. I don't know when he's going to be doing that with Corinthians, but I would make sure that Brad and he help make that happen, that there's a meeting where you get everyone together to go through things.
So I probably contacted Brad, try to set up a parent meet and greet, and he says he's not interested in having a parent meet and greet. He says that he wants to meet for 5 minutes after our first weekend practice, and that's it, just to go over expectations. And you know, that was his response.
Wow.
The words "I'm not interested in a meeting, setting up a meeting" was in his email.
All right. Sounds like we have a issue to get sorted out on your squad. Which you're seeing steam here, so. All right. Well, let's get back to the parents part. So score reporting, now I know you were used to that from WYSL last year. And I will say that as a club, we know for WYSL, scores have to get reported at the end of each game, and it's part of our responsibility, or we get fined as a club for not doing that. and we have a way of reporting the scores to both WYSL and to the club. I've always made that the responsibility of another parent on the team. I quite frankly believe the manager does enough things that that's not one of the things that they should have to be worrying about after the game is over.
So I was the score reporter for the Rowdies.
Ah, well, I think you, what's that? We never did. Yeah, and I hate to say it, but the high school teams traditionally don't show that on.
And again, you will have to report them to EDP, which is so easy. It's crazy. It's just like a login and a this and that, and they send you a reminder. You have to do it by 1 o'clock the next day. I'm not going to tell you not to do the MSC one officially, but unofficially, I'm telling you, don't worry about it right now.
For MSC?
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, Scott, I would say that's a bit different for you with a younger team. Oh, they don't.
Okay, yeah, we had one parent that did it last year. They've left, so I'll just find someone else to do it, or I'll do it. I did it a couple times myself. It was kind of fun.
Okay,
Scott,
well,
you're going to find that the NYC FC League, you don't keep score and there are no standings, so it's not really. I mean, they keep score, but not really.
Okay.
What did she say?
Developmental league, not.
You're coming in and out.
Don't.
okay, so the next thing on the list is the medical pack. And Scott, I assume you have one together already from last year?
Yep.
Michelle, this is something, once again, that should have been handed off to you from the previous manager because they usually get handed down on the team.
So David, sorry, David, what exactly did, because you broke out, what
That's
was
okay.
what
So
handed-
the thing I was talking about was a medical bag that
Oh,
gets
okay.
bought. And a medical bag isn't some complicated, sophisticated thing. It's just a bag that has ice packs, bandages, simple things for sort of the typical things that, kids are going to get hurt during a game. Typically we have Tylenol. I mean, and you sort of develop that as time goes on. But it's largely about ice packs and Band-Aids. And tape for occasionally taping up something, anyhow. Most teams assign that to somebody to bring to the game each week as their responsibility, speaking as the person who handles the medical bag. I'm fortunate to have an organizational nut as a wife who, so when I bring the bag home, goes through it and makes sure that everything is in its own perfect place, and then we bring it to the game and it gets torn to shreds and we get it back together again, and it's perfectly fine. By example, we keep our spare jerseys in the medical bag because we know that those are going to show up at the game every week. Yeah, and the medical forms. I'm sorry, couldn't hear you clearly enough.
How can I track that down?
Who was the manager on the team last year? I can look that up and find out for you.
I don't know, sorry.
No, but I can look that up and I'll find out and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to be clear, anything that's spent on the medical bag for a team is something that you can expense for. By example, the instant ice packs. The best recommendation on that is to order them, I think, through Amazon and buy a ton of them at the beginning of the season because there'll be days where you'll go through just tons of them.
Okay.
Anna is the one who takes care of ordering those for us, and she's got a locker filled with them that we keep replenishing the bag with.
Okay.
Most teams have a bench that they bring to games. Once again, I quite often see these get passed down on teams. I know I've passed 2 of them along in my time as my son has left teams. And I think it's worth I assume Corinthians had one last year, and we'll ask their manager from last year if they do.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Field setup, this is only for our home games, and quite frankly, there's very little except for Scott, who has more to do with that, but aren't we getting folks to set the fields up for them now? Yeah. But Michelle, for your part, what it means to do field setup, and quite frankly, I think it happens really it's not all that often. It's only when you're either the first team on the field or the last team on the field. And what that really, really means is picking up the corner flags from the locker that we have. Now, during the course of the season, Pat Green will send out an email to all the teams that are playing on those days on which fields to let them know that they need to be the ones picking up the corner flags or dropping them off.
Okay.
That email will include, I don't know if you're familiar with, but the locker is over by the Cantor Fields. When I say locker, I mean shipping container that we use. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've got it written down. There's a 4-digit number to open up the locker where we have all of those supplies. Yeah.
Canterfield, okay.
Yeah, it's right over by the
606.
Cantor Field. Probably. That's in the list of I just look it up when I need to know it. Now I'll remember it. Okay. Well, even I learned something today. That's cool. So basically, it looks really great when you're on the field and you've got corner flags set up. And if you're the first team on a field that day, you'll bring the corner flags. And if you're the last team on the field, you'll pick them up and return them to the locker so that we have them available for the next day. Another task that's often shared on the team is having someone be the ride coordinator. So that this way they can be the point person. It varies team to team how much folks need rides. I'd say that we were a bit more organic on Emlich last year, except for people writing to Anna saying help. But that can often help, especially for traveling to tournaments. Another task that most teams get to one other person is the tournament coordinator. Depending on what the tournament is, there's usually more logistics involved in getting to a tournament. I don't know what Corinthians' schedule is. Where are you traveling to?
I don't think we have any really far games.
Okay.
Because, with Charge, we're traveling really far, and so we have a tournament coordinator. But with Corinthians, it's all close.
Okay. Well, even with that, what I did when my son was on a team where we didn't travel very far, I tried to make it somebody else's responsibility to find the pizza place to go to after a game.
Okay.
Like simple things that make these tournaments more fun for kids, is that, the great thing about tournaments is that they get more time to bond together.
Yeah.
And also managing their time between games. So, although I think for Corinthians, you'll probably be at tournaments where you're only playing one game a day. Whereas Scott, you'll be doing things where you'll have multiple games in a day. They don't play tournaments? Well, then, there we go. All right. Team photographer, that is my favorite role on the team. And anyhow, if you happen to have someone who can shoot, and in fact, if you do, please let me know because I'm always anxious to get pictures of teams other than my son's team to get onto the website. And a social media coordinator for teams that use Facebook or things like that. Okay? But hopefully that's at least an outline of things that you can do to reach out to parents on your team to get more help.
David, question on social media. Does each team have their own social media account, or is it just one MSC account?
Each team. Well, let me be clear about different things that we have available. Each team has their own page on the MSC website. I haven't updated them for the fall 2017 season yet, but there's a page for every team in the club on the website, which I think is a great thing for kids to be able to have a place to look at to say, yeah, that's my team. So that it has a photo of the team. Let's see what Corinthians looked like from last year.
Athletico's is up there too.
I'm going to check on you first to see what Athletico's looked like last year. I think
my son actually pulled it up at school too, so what you said was it worked.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so cute.
Oh, that's right. Hugo's on your team.
Right? Yeah, they actually left.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, Nico wanted to play hockey.
Oh my God, that must be crushing Hugo. He used to work at my office, so I knew him. He was a super great guy.
Yeah, he was. He's going to be sorely missed.
Oh gosh. But you can see that there's pages for each of the teams. Oops, here, that just automatically went there. Okay, Michelle, you're going to be my hero if you can get somebody to take a team photo of the Corinthians.
Okay.
And basically, what I've got other instructions on the website. In fact, now I can see that Lucy Salvo was your manager last year, and Eric Pearl. And I'll reach out to both of them to ask about the bench and the medical bag,
Okay.
to see what they can do to help out.
Okay.
All right. But basically, it would be very reasonable for you to have somebody else on the team help fill out what's on here. So by example, and I'm not saying it's a ton of stuff, you know, and I'll point to MLEX only because I know it's taken care of, where to have a team photo on there, to have a list about things that the team has done well, just, you know, things that you're proud of. Yeah, it's, I guess, a brag sheet. But, you know, I think, as Scott pointed out, the kids look at that sort of stuff. And once again, you know, I think at the end of the day, we're all trying to enhance our kids' soccer experience. So this is one small way that we can do it. I think that's great.
So in order to post to this website, do we email you? Like photos, posts, what?
I'll be sending out more instructions on how to do that. Basically, in fact, I forget what it is off the top of my head. You just have to log in to the website as a manager. I'll send instructions to you to be clear on that. But by example, on our website, I'm just going to find where I have the FAQ on team pages. This is a very proud project that I worked on last summer that lets you know, that has instructions for each thing that you can do on the website. So by example, there's step-by-step instructions on how to update once you log in, or how to change the team photo on your page to update it. And if there's something that's not explained on there, let me know and I'll make sure to add it.
So when you were talking about social media, I actually wasn't thinking about the MSC, you know, ManhattanSC.com webpage. I was thinking about Facebook. I was thinking about Instagram, like things that the boys actually use.
It appears to me that most teams set up their own Instagram account. There's an MSC Instagram account, which would be great if you could tag as you're doing. But I will say that I'm still figuring my way through the social media thing. I understand my kids use things other than Facebook more often,
Right.
you know, Snapchat, and in fact, when they use Instagram, they don't use their real accounts when they're on it. So,
Yeah.
But I have older kids. But we do have things that do go on the MSC Facebook page.
Okay.
But actually, I have not seen too many other teams set up Facebook accounts, but I've seen plenty of teams set up their own Instagram accounts. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
Sure. All right, so what do you need to have with you on game day? You need to have your player cards, your medical forms, your U.S. club roster, and I'm not sure how this relates to Scott, but I know for you, Michelle, you need to have money for referee fees. Okay, and the same goes for you, Scott. Typically, referee fees are outlined depending on what the game is that you're going to, but they're always paid in cash, and you always get reimbursed for it, because you basically hand money to the chief referee who distributes money to the linesman.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't have to do that with the Westchester League, but we did that in the tournaments or the indoor tournament we had to do.
No, absolutely. And that's why, you know, just to be clear, we're doing a different session for you all who are in non-Westchester League, because those are the things that we'll be telling you that in Westchester, you know, they take care of the schedule. There's no negotiating on dates and changing games, and they take care of everything with the referee fees. That's not the case in the other leagues. And just to be clear, you absolutely, positively need to have every player's card for every game, or they won't be allowed to play. So it's really critical that A, you show up with them, and B, you leave with them. And you won't believe how often it'll be the ref who forgets to hand them to you. So you have to be really vigilant about reminding them to hand them back.
Hey, David, do they hold on to that for the duration of the game, or they just check
Yes.
it and they hand it back to you?
They absolutely hold on to them during the game.
Okay.
It has happened to me once or twice where they've said, don't worry about it, but it is the rule that they hold on to them.
And
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what I would suggest also to both of you is that once it's confirmed that Eddie's gotten all of the cards and stuff set up and you have your log on to Kick, is that you go in there and you poke around and you print out additional sets of cards because you just never know when you're going to need an extra set, you're going to lose a set. And I would suggest printing up an extra set and keeping it in your medical bag, just because you just never know when you might need it, or something like that. So that's a little thing I don't think we write, but you should definitely do.
Okay, so I should write them, Eddie, and ask for a Kick login, right?
Yeah, that's the US.
I don't have a login to Kick either.
No, that's the US Club website. So that's not the one.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Hannah.
Sorry, US Club and Kick are the same thing. So
Okay.
once you get that it'll be part of that login. I wish we could just go.
Because I don't have anything for US Club
Yeah,
or Kick.
you definitely ask Eddie.
Okay.
Ask Eddie for the stock up. Yeah, Eddie and Ray. That was what I think we talked about initially. Asking both of them.
And then for the referee fees, is that for at tournaments? Or
No.
at a tournament? Or sorry, Dave, I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, no, I'm just figuring out how my laptop works here. I apologize. So I realize you have to be looking at the screen to be able for it to hear you.
Okay.
So referee fees need to be paid at EDP games.
EDP
Actually, for your tournaments and New York Cup games, excuse me. So at tournaments, when you pay your fees up front on that takes care of everything.
Okay.
But at all New York Cup and all EDP games, which is the bulk of the games that you'll be participating in, you'll have a referee, and that's why we're telling you now, so you don't get surprised at your first game and you have a referee staring at you saying, "Where's my money?" It feels dirty, but it's not.
Do you give it to them in the beginning?
Yes. Yeah, they usually ask for the money before the game starts.
Is it paid by both teams, or is it the home team, or how does that work?
Both teams pay the referee fees. So what you'll see correct me if I'm wrong on this, Anna, but like on EDP, your game day roster has what the fees are for each team on there so that it's clear. Yeah.
So it'll say on the roster. So I will know before the game how much I had to bring.
Yes.
And
You'll know to have, typically it goes by the number of, forgive me, I'm going to probably be wrong on this, but it's usually by the number of minutes in the game. So if it's an 80-minute game, each team pays $80. Is that not right?
So
Yeah.
each
I don't want to tell you how much to bring just based on this. It's definitely planned out beforehand. It's not a surprise that day what you're supposed to pay.
And they expect cash, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They accept cash, and that's something that you'll put in for reimbursement for.
They don't accept anything else, though.
I've yet to see them accept anything but cash.
Okay.
And just another note on bringing the medical forms to every game. One thing that I've found in the past very helpful with medical forms is when you need to find somebody's phone number to get a hold of them 20 minutes before the game and you can't find it on your phone, they usually have all their important contact info on the medical form.
Okay.
All right. So once again, you need to have cards. It's helpful to have a spare set just in case, kept in the medical bag. Medical forms, once again, in the medical bag. And just to be clear, you do not need to show those medical forms at a game. It's just that you need to have them on hand just in case.
Okay.
And then to have your U.S. club roster, I usually print up a batch of them at the beginning of the season just to have them. Because typically you... Oh, okay. That's true. Yeah, so you have to print out, for EDP games, you have to print out a game day roster that has your roster on it. Actually, that has both teams' rosters
Yeah,
on
it's a
it.
game card.
Yeah.
Can you just
Yeah, just for the other manager, I had a binder last year which I had all the forms and the roster things I needed, and I clipped the player cards into the 3-ring binder because once I didn't have it and I freaked out. So those all in the same place also helped me.
Great. Okay. All right. All right. So now expenses. I think this is one thing, at least we've heard so far, has gone the most smoothly for things for managers. We use a system called Tally, which is administered by Sam Aronoff in the club. If you don't have a Tally account, which I'm assuming, Michelle, that you don't have one just yet.
No, I set it up already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I paid
Awesome.
for the 2 tournaments, and
Oh, great.
I've already gotten reimbursed for both of them.
Yeah. No, that's what Sam is pretty on the money about. Not pretty. He's incredibly on the money about taking care of these things. So once again, use it for league fees, tournament fees, referee fees, getting reimbursed for medical expenses. Anything that you're spending money on the team, you should be able to reimburse. Okay?
Is there a list of things that are reimbursable, like the ice packs? I don't know. Like, what are other expenses to expect? Because I've never done this, so I don't know what comes up normally.
Yeah, we're actually all just double checking now where we have that listed. I mean, basically, it's we're gonna have to check where that list is. I'll get back to you if we have a list that outlines those things. But
Okay.
quite frankly, anything that you're spending money on for the team, and when I say anything, it's it does not include pizza for the team. It does not include getting an Uber to get a kid to show up at a game because they were running late. It's, I made a bold statement and said it, covers anything for the team, but no, it doesn't cover, non-essential things. Anything that's essential for the kids to participate in a game.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to head to the next thing, which is questions. We've actually gotten through. So what other questions do you have? Hopefully we've been able to touch on everything so far.
I think we've been good.
All right. And just to be clear, in fact, I don't put this on here, but I've had it in each of the emails that we've sent out. The manager help email address, we set up so that it goes to the 3 of us that are here right now. So Noelle, Anna, and I will all get your email if you send it to that address, which will hopefully ensures that one of us can get to you as quickly as possible.
So you say it's David, Anna, and Noelle, and you guys are the sort of manager group?
Exactly. We're the manager committee.
Okay.
Where's your game this weekend?
Sorry, was that a question for me?
Yeah, where is your game this weekend?
It's a tournament. It's the Philadelphia Union Cup. I think they're trying to start new this year and do a Labor Day thing.
Okay, so you don't have to set anything up this weekend. You're all set.
Just gotta get parents organized and cards and all that stuff. It's been
okay.
fun.
Great.
Our hotel had a water main break today, so now we had to get a new hotel.
Sweet. That's fun.
Yeah.
We're not going to 4 points.
Oy.
Oh man.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you both for the great questions during this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for holding it.
Great.
Sorry for the additional noise. I had a very interested participant as well.
And it sounds like that's the kind of participant that's exactly why we're all doing this. So
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about me?
Yes, I'm talking.
We are talking about
He also wanted you to know he was on the front right in the team photo.
all right, cool.
It's the white kid. The really white kid.
He's got Irish in him, so he's very pale.
All right. We'll score a bunch of goals. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both.
Good luck.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.